Yeah, g'day. So it's season review time. And I have been putting this off because I'm well aware I made some pretty borderline and somewhat insane decisions across the season. Still landed me in the top 2.1% overall ranking for the year, which is all great, but, well, I'm a pretty competitive guy, so my season, I would say, overall, pretty average. I've broken down my season review into sort of like a first half of the year in two sections, which is first quarter of the season strategy and second quarter of the season strategy. Because up until this point, the strategy for the year is mostly just finding the formation, right? What formation are you actually running? What's the meta? Have you got any gems in your team or not? And building team value. Now, the second half of the season is when the majority of all of the chips are played for seasoned managers, and that is it's a lot more hectic. Should we just say that? So I'm going to start at game week 1 because hopefully this could be used as like a review running into next season when I'm actually building my wildcard team, and I'll come back and review. And if you have stumbled across onto this video somehow, however you've got here, then thanks for landing on this page. And if you wouldn't mind subscribing, it would really help out. So go on, click that big red button down there. Game week 1. So my strategy each season is typically find a 4.5 goalkeeper and dead end the other spot. And find that 4.5 goalkeeper that you think is going to do the best in like the first 8 game weeks or so. And just set and forget, because I place quite a high importance, especially in that first I don't know, game week 1 to 10 would be the first quarter of the season. It kind of depends if a double's been thrown in already or what, because I mean the seasons are a bit more dynamic in the last couple of years through COVID. It's changed a lot. So I've kind of broken it down into like a game week 1 to 10, and then a game week 11 to 20, and then past that point, it's just strategy around how you intend to use your chips. Early season, game week 1, you go fixtures over form for pretty obvious reasons. You can't really gather form from any of the preseason matches, I wouldn't say, unless it's like a cup match or like something of value, because most of what's going on is tactics being tried out, the new players are being embedded into the teams. It's pretty hectic. You can figure out who's likely to start, but you can't really give form too much weighting, especially game week 1 anyway. And so typically what I do is I will dead end one spot. I chose to dead end a striker this year in Perica. Dead end the other goalkeeper. In this case, I've just backed up the Brighton goalkeeper, and I went with Brighton because their first 8 games. Excuse me. So the first, I typically try not to wildcard that first wildcard unless I absolutely have to. But I aim to go for like around game week 10 or something. So it's about game weeks 1 to 20, which is the first half of the season in terms of actual game weeks instead of games played, because there's not many doubles and whatnot in there, and so your average score is probably like you're aiming for like 60 points a week in your team, but then when all the doubles and the blank game weeks get thrown in, it's all over the place, right? So I go at the start of the season, I chose Brighton because they're a pretty solid defensive unit. They've got backup keeper at 4.0, so if for some reason Sanchez gets injured, I've got the backup playing goalkeeper and don't have to be forced into a goalkeeper transfer early on. And they were playing Burnley, Watford, Everton would have been a tough game, Brentford, Leicester's a tough game, Crystal Palace, potentially Arsenal, Norwich. Now that's not too much of a bad run across 8 game weeks. I mean, you're obviously going to have some tough games in there. But, you know, you haven't hit the likes of Chelsea, City or Liverpool in that first 8 game weeks. Granted, it's in the 9th game week the City pops up. But typically by then, I've usually made a goalkeeper transfer somehow. Not that you really want to, but for some reason each season I end up making goalkeeper transfers. This season was a bit different because I wildcarded earlier than expected. But to lead in, I went in with 2 playing bench options, rotating for the first. I think I typically plan like 4 to 6 game weeks with a focus on being the first 4 game weeks. And I really don't like making trades in that first game week unless it's an injury, because you should have set up your team in such a way that you bank a transfer, and unless there's like an obvious guy that you've just seriously missed, or someone gets horrifically injured in the first game or something, you tend not to want to make too many transfers early on. And so I went with Leeds had a good run, so it's all fixtures here. Simicast was starting for Liverpool, so he was like 3.9 or something. What did he start at? 4 million? Why would he start at 3.9? Yeah, 4 million. So he went up and down, obviously, because a highly fluctuating player in price, given he plays for Liverpool, which will have high interest in ownership. Went in with United. You know, I'm a United supporter, and they had a good run of fixtures, and, you know, last season Fernandes, and, you know, we did alright, but still Slabhead Maguire sitting in our back line had me worried, but accurately so, it turns out. Those memes of him dancing around in a ballerina costume, pretty apt. Yep. He was a panic by management, and he's just been forced into the team to, you know, probably at the behest of not management. I don't think they probably want to be playing him every week. Captured Ben Rama, which is a great buy early on in the season. Obviously came in with Salah and Fernandes, as everyone else did. Ronaldo didn't come into the game until game week 4. Antonio up front, 100 points, kick off the season's pretty good. Rank of 377k out of 9. Actually, it was probably more like 8.8 million players at that point, but we'll just go with the end figure of 9 million. That's like top 3%. It's pretty good. It's a good start. I know it says it's actually an overall terrible rank, but in terms of overall percentage, it's actually pretty high. And if you look at my Gameweek history, like, I basically went between, that was my highest rank. The whole season was Game Week 1. And it was 100 points, which is fine, but I've gone 370, 280, 140, 290, 170, 260. I mean, I just basically go up and down, in and around 100 to 250 odd K all season. Just the whole season. It just didn't fucking go anywhere. It's just like, I could have just went with, or slightly better, I could have gone with, like, when did it end up? 198. Game week 5 was, there you go, that was kind of where I finished. But yeah, I guess that just goes to show how strong the template is, but also, well, at least for the first, no, it doesn't show that at all. What it does show is my transfers are shit. That's what it actually shows. Talking about it now. Because if you look at my game week ranks, I mean, 377 is good, 7, so anything 900,000 and under is a top 10% game week rank, which is, you know, if you get top 10% often enough, you're going to be like a top 2% player, just by virtue of the fact, give or take, somewhere in there, in that range anyway. So it's like, that's top 10, top 10, top 10, and then a 4.2 million, so 50%. Okay, so there's a terrible game week. Almost top 10, and then another terrible game week by all standards. Another terrible, top 10, and then, you know, top 20, and so on and so forth, right? So this runs all the way down to game week 20. This is the first half of the season, really, right? in this period of time, I took 1, 2, 3, 4 hits. Now that means I'm burning transfers on players that are not servicing my team well enough, or I'm not being as aggressive as I should be with hits to get in really good players. So it might be because I place quite a high importance on building team value. Now, in the first 10 game weeks of the season, you'll see here that my overall squad value is 102.5 million. 2.5 million extra. Well, it's not actually 2.5 million extra. It's really 1.25 million extra that you can play with, because you lose half of your transfer cost, roughly. There's caveats to that, but we'll just call it roughly, 1.25 million. That's quite a lot. That's the difference between like Trent at 7.5 and a 6 million Van Dijk. That's quite a lot, and that's in the first 10 game weeks of the season. If you get up to game week 20, I've now doubled that and I'm at 105 million. I'm sitting at an overall rank of 178,000, which is 20k off where I finished. Again, showing consistency and not being able to improve. But I've got an extra 5 million team value, which is 2.5 million extra pounds to play with. Now, this rank could have been a lot higher. So, not going to hide behind the fact that I have made some pretty terrible decisions throughout the season. Now, if I jump forward to game week 7, so game week 7 I wildcarded, I think. Yeah, 7 was my wildcard. Now, okay. Well, yeah, okay. So, a wildcard team should beat the average by a good 15 to 20 points. That's just really it should be what happens. This was terrible. The average points of the week was 38. Obviously, it's a very low scoring game week if that's the average. But my wildcard was 38. So regardless of, it's still completely mucked us up. I'd say the risks here are just looking at this team, because I didn't really, making my notes, I didn't really go into too much team analysis on each team because there's 38 weeks worth of team and I don't want to talk about each team for 38 weeks. That's a long video. But I've clearly not figured out at this point that the strikers are shit because I've got Lukaku. Cancelo has this random game where he just... Oh, that's right. That's right. It was the Liverpool vs City week. So I potentially even wildcarded in the wrong week. But this is obviously a wildcard will build for the next, 6 game weeks. And that's what you aim for. And I did pull in some good players, but I've made some mistakes. Alonso just auto-subbed out on game week 7 and doesn't... It's the first week he just doesn't feature and then doesn't feature. It's like the week that he was like, right, that's enough, you can't defend. Get out, Alonso, off with you. And that was the week I wildcarded him in. So clearly I wasn't watching enough Chelsea football. The eye test probably would have given that away. That just comes down to the amount of time that you have available to actually go and watch the content. I place quite a high weight of importance on the eye test. Stats help you find players, but then you go and look at what's going on. I had a very long football career in New Zealand. I mean, I played in national leagues, but I didn't play for anything noteworthy or anything. But you notice things on the pitch, and it gives you a bit of a perspective on footballing strategy, watching it from someone who's actually played the game competitively or paid to play for a while. You see things a bit differently, and so shout out to Bruno G from Newcastle and Az for pointing him out on a stream. I'll cover that later in this video, but that just goes to show why the eye test is actually very, very key. That's a very good demonstration of that. But anyway, here I've gone Lukaku because, you know, the talk has been about for the last 3 weeks Ronaldo. I'm a United supporter. I haven't gone Ronaldo because I don't see the value in that amount of money being spent on Ronaldo. It's not because he's a bad player, I just don't see the cost benefit analysis in it. And so I build myself a pretty solid team, right? It goes 38 and then I go 54, so it's actually not a solid team for the first 2 game weeks. It's actually terrible. But then, you know, the plan starts to kick in and I get 97 points and bench 12. So this is where my tale of woe starts. Right, my benching throughout the season. I've got points galore on my bench and from some pretty astute players too, I might add, where I just went heart over head. And it's coming up. Yeah. So I went 97 with 12 on the bench. Now that's pretty good. That's a 500. That's a top 5% rank that week. Right? Gets me a green arrow for the first time in 3 weeks. Then I've got 53 points with 27 points sitting on my bench. That's an 80-point game week. I mean, that would have shot me up the leaderboard. Then followed up by a 65-point game week with 33 points sitting on my bench. And to round it off, a 76-point game week with 11. Now, I think one of these... Well, we'll go through them. We'll just go through them. It's easier. Livramento. He was a big part of my bench. He was on the bench pretty much week after week, just sitting there earning 9.6 points, just chilling out, throwing away points. This bench is not too bad. It was just Livramento, right? So 97 points. I capture Salah's haul. I've got Smith Rowe 13 points. Super happy about that. He came in on my wild card. Happy days. I actually even doubled them up. So I went Saka, Smith Rowe, Gallagher, because I was just trying to, you know, hit as many 6.6 million or less midfielders at that point. But then we go Ramsdale. So I've gone fixture over... Well, Aston Villa playing Arsenal at home to Arsenal versus Watford's 5-2 loss away at Everton. That's a pretty daft decision with hindsight, full perspective, talking about it now. I don't know what I was thinking, I'll be honest. No idea. But Ramsdale trolled me, 10 points on the bench. Saka, who I chose to play over Tony, Smith Rowe was never leaving my team. He was on form. He just stayed in my team for a good couple of weeks. Livramento, as I mentioned, just chilling out on my bench, earning his casual 6 points. And Armstrong, who had a shit game, like in the bonus points, where's Southampton? Doesn't even feature. I mean, the lowest bonus point score is 14, and he's not even in that. He's just somehow fluked an assist, just to troll me even further, to build up a pretty impressive. And I've taken a 4-point hit this week as well, so pretty impressive way to slide down the game week, down the scale, and then. So I'm like, okay, Ramsdale, you've proven your point. We'll chuck you in. And he does his job. He gets his clean sheet, even earns some save points. But Ben Foster, he's like, forget about me. Hey, yo, yeah. I'm just gonna sit on your bench with 11 points. Just ye of little faith. Oh man. Now, these things don't keep up, do they? You actually have to scroll through the fixture list as you go. But at home to Southampton. No, it wasn't. I've gone forward 2 games, sorry. Watford, where are we? I don't even know which game week this is. What is this? 11. This is 11. How did Watford... Oh, I saved a penalty. In a 1-0 loss. So even Even more of a... I've clearly just blacked that one out of my memory, just in anger. Just straight up anger. Arsenal Watford, he loses 1-0, fucking comes out with 11 points because he saves a penalty and makes 5 other... I remember that match now. Yeah, he was phenomenal in that match. He made some pretty epic saves. But this is not the point of this one. Cancelo, sitting last on my bench because I have so much faith in United and our new manager bounce, which was about as high as a futsal ball. Yeah, bouncing off a hardwood floor. If anyone who's played futsal, you know how high that bounces. Cancelo, 14 points against United, sitting on my bench. Livramento, of course, still there with his casual 6 points. I've decided to play Jensen. Now, yeah, like, I expect the comments, to anyone that watches this video, I expect the comments to be somewhere along the lines of, don't listen to the guy, he knows nothing about what he's talking about. And you know what? Fair pop to you. Still managed at 2.1% OR, but Janssen over Cancelo, very questionable. Even Janssen over Livramento, considering he's gone like 9-6-6-6 in a row. Questionable. Yeah, fuck. Anyway, clearly, see, it's bringing back memories, and this is why I blacked it out in the first place. So we'll just happily move along and leave this be, because yep, there it is, all its glory. That would have, I could have potentially been a lot higher had I not been so caught up in what I was doing and realised that United were playing shit. Anyway, we'll move along to the second half of the strategy. Second quarter strategy. So game weeks 11 to 20. Now, typically this is when I aim to use my first wildcard, hoping all things have gone well. Things have not gone well this season. I have had to use my wildcard in game week 7. So I've clearly managed to boost value very quickly from that wildcard though. So that is one thing that came out of the wildcard in game week 7. So I went from, floating around 101, a wildcard, and then I go 1.6, 1.9, 2.53, 3.44, 4.4. I mean, this is going a bit further down this part of the season, but by game week 20, I'm at 105.1 million. Very, very helpful for your blanks and doubles that are coming up when you really want a lot of premium assets going into those hefty doubles. This is why team value is so important, so underrated on a lot of podcasts. So I'm calling you out. Yep, team value is important, man. So much so that in the first 4 weeks of the season, like, I'm on FPL statistics like a hound, eh? When are these values going up? Who's changing? Who do I want to jump on? Who can I get rid of? Do not forget to get rid of your players that are going down in value. Man, that's caught me out a couple of times, because then you get stuck, especially with a burnt spot. So if you burn a spot at like 4 million non-playing defender and a 4 million non-playing defender emerges and your guy's gone down to 3.9 million, you got to find a 0.1 million somewhere, which is typically an extra transfer that it forces a transfer, but it also is, it sometimes is the choice between two options of a transfer, and you may not choose the best player because you're trying to now jump on a 4 million playing defender. Now, this is how the mind of an architect works. I've never actually thought of that before. I've just soundboarded that with you guys. But anyway, so I'm still building value for the second half of the season. That's like the strategy. This is why the season review is typically not, nothing too special for the first half of the season. Like, the first half of the season pretty much just rolls along like every other season. All you have to do is figure out which teams that could be the top spots 5, 6, and 7 at the end of the season. Identify those teams and find the value. That's basically the first half of the season in a nutshell. West Ham, Jared Bowen. If you picked that one early, and stuck with it. I mean, I think I got Bowen in and then somehow transferred him out. See, it's still questionable decisions throughout last year's slightly absent-minded season. So, still just going build team value. Hopefully that I haven't wildcarded at this point, but I have. I'm just reading off the notes. And and in the back of my mind, I'm still trying to question up until game week 20. What is the meta strategy? What is the meta formation? Is it 3-5-2? Is it not? Is it 4 at the back and some variation like 4-4-2 or 4-5-1, which is where I landed, and I'll get into that story shortly. But just a couple of, considering I'm pulling out all the downsides of my season, I thought I'd chuck in a couple of epic calls. This was a begrudged epic call. Game week 22. So, game week 22 was a really awkward game week. I had one free transfer, but we had United with a double, Spurs not with a double, was it? Oh yeah, United. It was just United and Brentford with a double. That's right. Maybe someone else. I might have. Is it Leicester? No, just those two with the double, yeah. And so I'm looking at my team, and you've got Chelsea playing City. That's kind of an awkward fixture. You've got Liverpool and Brentford, but everyone's got... Where's Salah? Oh, Salah's injured at this point. That's right. Salah got in... What did he do? It was... I can't remember what the injury was now, but Salah was injured. You've got some awkward fixtures floating about the place. Chelsea's got a double. I've only got Alonso. See, I haven't prepared for some of this, and I can't remember the early parts of the season too clearly, and because it was still, you know, COVID hectic, and well, if you haven't kept up with New Zealand politics, we're still in lockdown, even now. But yeah, the rules were pretty hectic over here. Yeah. Anyway, let's not get into that. But I didn't have Fernandes in the team, so I come into this game week with Bowen, 21 points, epic. Son Regulion for Spurs. We've got Antonio, who's the only striker doing anything. Watkins got auto subbed out for Alonso, who was for some reason on my bench. Might have been questioning minutes at that point. Foden, who just doesn't play, subs in for Martinelli, who was playing... Where's the Arsenal fixture? Man, blinded. It's because that's saying game week 22 and we're all the way at game week 21. That's one bug that the team at Fantasy Premier League, your dev team, whoever's the dev tech lead, team lead, yo, check over your guys' work, man. Arsenal was playing City, so not really a Martinelli fixture, that one. So leading into this, and I've already taken a hit that week as well, so this is where my hits start to come in. I boil it down to there's no good option apart from Fernandes or Ronaldo, and because the strikers are not performing, I don't want funds up front in Ronaldo because I can't move them out easily unless I want to jump on Kane, and I don't want to go Kane at this point in the season. And so I begrudgingly go, I've got no one else to choose apart from Fernandes as part of my trade in to, you know, to try and get some rank boosts. And then I look at my team when I'm sitting there and I'm going, I mean, my vice captain here is Dennis. Did they have a double too? Did they? Where are we now? Game week 22. Watford are playing Newcastle. No, so they don't have got Dennis with the vice captain. I don't know what I'm up to there, to be honest. No clue. But yeah, I go so far as to captain Fernandes as well, because there's no one else good in my team that can rival the potential haul from Fernandes even though he doesn't have penalties, I think he's still on free kicks at that point. And he goes and flukes two goals. I think he has like 2 shots in that first game against whoever they play, I can't remember. 2 shots, 2 goals. And I'm just like, oh, that's luck. That's pure luck, that. But then the second game he got 2 assists. He actually played quite well in that second game. So it was a begrudging buy because I was watching United play and I knew that they were not playing very well. But paid off. So we'll take that. Second half of the season is all about the chips, right? Now, I took a completely different strategy to the masses on FPL. I went for the bench boost in the week that everyone triple captained Salah. Now, the season where COVID really took a hit and all, we got that free wildcard when we came back in. I bench boosted the week that it all started off again and got like 125 points, and then saw for the rest of the season that because I wasn't worried about a bench boost like I was every other season, my team, like the value on the pitch was much more substantial because I wasn't carrying a bench or having the decision each week of I really want this player, but I also need to build a bench. Which, if you have to do that across 3 to 4 game weeks, and your decision is I will build a bench instead, you've lost 4 aggressive transfers for 4 playing members on your bench. Now, this is why a lot of more seasoned managers will tie in a wildcard with their bench boost. If you've got a good enough team, well, you can. There's a few strategies about, right? Of course, wildcarding out of a bench boost is ideal if you can do it well, because you build your bench, you get an epic wildcard score, bench boost score, hopefully, and then you wildcard all the value into your, starting 11 with maybe 1 decent sub or something, depending on the strategy and how many injuries and COVID postponements and whatever's going on in that season, right? Or you wildcard and then bench boost the week after or the week thereafter still. So within 2 weeks. That's another quite popular strategy. Now, I wanted to just bench boost and get it out of the way. So much so that I actually spent 12 points in game week 26 to avoid triple captaining Salah to play my bench boost. Now, my reasoning behind this was actually quite well thought out, because I had this theme running in my head for about the 5 or 6 game weeks leading up until this point, and I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna logically sit down and figure this out. How many points is Salah going to score in this epic double game week that he has? Now, I predict 25 total points, because he's playing Norwich and Leeds. Now, I thought Norwich would be a 15-pointer for Salah, maybe a bit more, maybe even 18, but that the Leeds fixture would be considerably less, probably like a 10-point fixture, so roughly about 25 total. So I was like, okay, well, I'm obviously captaining Salah. I'm not going to go full-blown mad here, which means I'm going to lose potentially 25 points from Salah. Can I gain that 25 points with my bench boost? Well, yes, I can. Medicash is actually one of the heroes of my season. Now, he's only put 5 points into this bench boost, and he gets mentioned first because he is a hero of mine. I will go into a little bit later on, because this is more focused on the bench boost, but yeah, he did me some solids a little bit later in the season. But I was thinking here, Pope and Burnley can do Nick Pope and Burnley things across the double, right? And so I'm expecting a good 8 points out of Pope, right? 1 clean sheet and some save points along the way, and an extra game for your 2 points appearance and maybe some more saves than that. So roughly about 8 points. Dennis was the least likely guy that I thought was going to bang. He was playing away to Aston Villa and at home to Crystal Palace, in the game where they got smashed 4-1. He didn't do anything in that match, but in that game against Aston Villa away, he managed to score the only goal and get the 3 bonus. So, kudos to Dennis. He actually trolled me for most of the season, but he made my bench boost work. I was actually relying on the Villa fixtures. I thought Watkins and Cash were going to do the business because they were playing Watford. And I didn't even have the double. So I didn't even fully stack up. That's right. Yeah, this was more because I also had to play the weeks following, and I think Villa had a bit of a run at that point. So all in all, I kept up with the 25 points. However, I took 5 transfers to do that, so I spent the minus 12 to do it. So I didn't actually cover all of it, did I? I got 13, 11, that's 24, 25, and 30. I got 30 points from my bench. I was hoping to hit 25, so I outscored by 5, but I spent 12 to get there, so I'm actually net negative 7 points for this game week. Now the power therein after is I don't have to worry about transfers for a bench anymore. My wildcard is unleashed. I haven't wildcarded at this point. I don't have to wildcard with a bench boost in mine. It's gone. All I have is 2 free hits, a wildcard, and a triple captain still to play. So when I decided to bench boost, I also thought to myself, there's still quite a few double game weeks to come. And all I have to do is stick that triple captain on one motherfucker that week of a double game week and hope like hell that he outscores all the hits and other means of people that are probably bench boosting at that point as like a combined effort across the 2 chips, but with the freedom of transfers without having to worrying so much about a bench and also unleashing a proper wildcard. Like in the start of the season, your first wildcard, you are not thinking about a bench boost. You're thinking about, the fixtures upcoming and teams in form depending on how early you bench or how early you wildcard. Some people wildcard game week 4. It's pretty early. You don't have much data at that point. I mean, Ronaldo entered the game in game week 4. I mean, it's a pretty weird time to be wildcarding, but this is why I always aim for a lot later in the season. Anyway, so all things considered, I set myself up, I reckon, for an absolute stonker of a finish to the season. Did I do it? Nah. No, I didn't. It was almost like I had too many chips to play with, to be completely honest, and game week's changing fast and all sorts going on. It is a very dynamic time of the season. You have to be on your game. You have to be awake at all hours of the New Zealand night to align with a 12-hour time difference over in the UK when the football's actually being played. 2 a.m. is a typical deadline time for me. Doesn't make late team news too easy to catch because you're either asleep or you're holding yourself awake, so you're not even completely switched on, trying to find relevant team news and then make a very clever decision on little sleep, or you're partying. Yep. You've got not too many options because it's the middle of the night. It's Saturday night or Friday night. You could be in the middle of a pub. So, I mean, my scores running out of the season are actually not too bad overall. There's a couple of horrific weeks, like my 4.7 million ranked week, game week 30, where I scored 22 points. Now, that was, I think, the blank game week, was it? Hopefully a blank game week. Yeah, it was the small one. So the average is 28. like 6 points is actually quite a lot of rank when the numbers are that low. I'm I'm holding Trent, Mahrez, Cancelo, Pope, and James, and Salah, and Broya, all as non-playing players in my team this week. So deservedly so, a 22-point week, really. Missing the captain on Saka, and everyone else blanked. So, yeah. Questionable decisions, but that's in and around the strategy of what was going on in those moments, which I can't remember at this point because I didn't build the notes for that. But anyway, I think that set me up for a really good end to the season, but I just didn't capitalise on it. Now, the triple captain that I ended up playing was 3 weeks after the bench boost, and I chucked it on Salah. We didn't know what all the doubles were when that bench boost was announced. Was there? I think there was a couple of doubles anyway, and the other double wasn't as good to triple captain. I was doing other things. I think I might have even free hit in and around there. I have to double check, but so I still got 15 points out of my captain on the triple captain. So not as good as the 25 from the earlier obvious triple captain Salah game week, but the combination of the two didn't work out too bad. Didn't take any hits. One transfer. Game week average 72. I mean, I have outscored it by 10 points, which is, mostly Salah's triple captain. So all things considered, it worked out pretty well. That's pretty high average. Well, double game weeks are a higher average, obviously, but you still have to nail that triple captaincy, and you really want to be chucking on a player like Salah or Kane, Ronaldo if he's playing the minutes, Son, or someone who is actually going to be playing both games, and that's why triple captaincy is a bit of a hit and hope trip, because across a double game week, which can be separated by 3 days, in which really high energy players may not be able to accurately perform in as well across those two 90-minute matches, or may not even feature for both 90-minute appearances. That's why you go for someone like Kane or Salah, who play all the games. You just have to. I was just hoping at the point of the bench boost that when the other doubles lined up, someone else viable would come up that had a good enough double to do it. So that hope paid off. I'm a pro risk manager, as you can see by benching Cancelo. Risk comes with reward and loss on both sides of the coin. It makes the game more fun for me, and I reckon the only way to actually win this thing is to have a risky approach. It's about how you validate your risk, which is important. The questions you ask yourself and how you answer those questions. Flippant answers. What's the quote? Jordan Peterson, word for word. The proper answer is often that the question isn't sophisticated enough. That's deep, man. Jordan Peterson, if you haven't listened to him, a great man to listen to if you want to listen to philosophy and psychology. Just listen to his lecture series. They're great. Where was I? Yeah. So I free hit 32. Now, okay. So bench boost triple captain done. Was it worth it? Yes. I'm going to go with yes. Put my no money on that statement. I'm not wagering any bets on this, but yeah, I think it was worth it. Like, I could have actually had a killer end to the season and didn't. And why didn't I? Well, I did make a pretty good call on when to do my second wildcard. So leading up to this, leading up to the wildcard in game week 33, I was full deep in a different strategy, which started game week 31. Right, so I am building for a plan. I'm taking hits to do it. So game week 31, I'm 2 hits, 1 hit, 2 transfers. Then I free hit, so that's why I took the hit, was to make sure I lock that player into my team, knowing that I'm going to free hit and that I will need him the game week after. And I free hit for a 66 point week on an average of 48, so it's pretty successful free hit, really. That's an extra 20 points. Getting Son and Kane in, but just missed the captaincy on Son here would have been epic. And then game week 33, a wildcard. So I had hit to do something completely different before my free hit, so 2 weeks prior. But then I get a penny drop moment, and I'm like, the meta formation is 4-5-1. It's 4-5-1, 100%. There's no other formation that beats it. That is the formation of the season. That's my decision, and I just go, fuck the old strategy. We're chucking those points out the door. I've taken it on the chin. We're wildcarding, and you know what? This wildcard worked out primo. The average for the week was 61. I bank an 87 point game week. That's 26 points up. It's half of the close to half of the 61 average. Absolutely stonk it. What have I done? I've burnt my bench. Like, quite literally just gone full 4-5-1 is the meta. So much so that I've got Greenwood, who does not play for Leeds, on the bench, and Gelhardt, who is questionably playing for Leeds at this point, and just gone, nah, fuck the lot of you. You're staying on the bench. And Amati, who, playing cheap defender for an okay Leicester side, but a severely depleted Leicester side through injury, was worth the risk, because, you know, you kind of hope that you're going to catch a clean sheet in there somewhere, relying on the fact that maybe Schmeichel will save them for their clean sheets, but no one in front of them really to slow down the onslaught of Premier League teams that are just, you know, coming at you left, right and centre, because like half your midfield's gone and your centre backs are just nowhere to be seen. So Amadi is basically dead on my bench. The decision is between Kane and either like a Watkins or Richarlison. But thank you, Az from FPL Black Box. Shout out to you, bro. I had never even heard of Bruno G, Mahrez, until I watched your stream. And once I heard about him, in some of the comments you were spouting, I went and looked up the highlights of like the previous couple of matches, and noticed that, holy hell, this lying deep midfielder is in and around the box when all the action is happening. He is up there, and he's like a Foden. Foden was always in and around the area, just never got past the ball. But Bruno G is 5 million. He's actually 4.9 million when I brought him in here. So I didn't just go, as bringing him in, I'm bringing him in. I'm not just copycatting. But he pointed out a player that was worthy. This is why stats are so good, right? Stats can point out players, but they also fall short on who's in the screen when you're watching the game, because stats do not reflect the fact that, Bruno G's sitting on the edge of the 18-yard spot, ready to unleash a semi-accurate strike on goal. But those will never be reflected in the stats. But when you go and watch the highlights and match of the day, or actually watch down some football analysis and breakdown of the game, or you have a footballing mind and can understand what's going on, Bruno G at 4.9 million in an attacking Newcastle side with old ex-Bournemouth coach at the helm who just loves to attack, he's worth bringing in. You know who he unleashes in this wildcard team? Son and Kane, the combination of the two with Salah. Like, without a 4.9 option, when I have burnt my bench, Bruno G literally unlocks the side. Fabian Schär as well. Shout out to him. He was already in my team before the wildcard. I actually held him through the wildcard, as you can see here. Oh wait, that's free hit. I may have just led you astray. Lied straight up. Okay, retract it. But Fabian Schär makes it in because he's on free kicks. He's also cheap as fuck, and Newcastle have got a great run. Trent, who stays in my team the whole season, to my detriment actually at the end of the season, he was set and forget. He should have been set and forget. I set and forget him for the whole season. He should have been set and forget up to around about the quarterfinals of the Champions League. Because at that point, those Premier League teams that are still in the Champions League, which is pretty much all of them, usually, unless there's like a horrific draw or something, are in the Champions League quarterfinals and are placing more importance on those Champions League matches as they are compared to the Premier League. And at that point, this is what Jamie Pickett, I think, figured out or knew, or I don't know. I don't know why he transferred out Salah and Trent, but once I realised he had done that, I thought to myself, well, why would you want to do that? Because they were set and forget in my team. This is why season reviews are so good. Was Trent and Salah were going to be? They are the top players in that side, so you want them fresh, on the ball, focused on the wildly different strategy to the teams that you come up against in the Champions League. That's why Champions League's so cool. Like, you play against Spanish teams playing in the Spanish League with a completely different view on football and how the game should be played. The Premier League has its own style, and I think is definitely the most difficult league in the world by a long shot. But it's a different style of play to the other leagues in the world. I mean, New Zealand League, we have a lot more physicality allowed in our leagues. And it's it boils down to the fact that we're not worth much, to be honest. The players in the Premier League, they'd be worth hundreds of millions of pounds, apparently, according to marketing and advertising and all sorts. Yeah, we don't have that level of quality down here, so we don't mind, a bit more of an aggressive tackle. It's a similar style of your Sunday leagues, I fear, or the lower league echelons of Saturday league competitive sides. You'll see there's a lot more tackles, follow-through tackles being allowed, and I still think they should be allowed, by the way. But these guys have been taught to ride challenges, not to dive, but to ride a challenge, because if you do not ride a challenge, you break your legs, or you do what I did and you rupture your ACL and have to have it, well, part of my hamstring, torn out and scaffolded through the kneecap and have my meniscus shaved as a result. So you really want to be aware of the players around you and ride those challenges, because if you've got your leg planted when a massive centre back comes through that leg that's planted of yours, yeah, well, that's the end of your season. That was also the end of my career at the age of 32. So, yeah, these guys, they know how to ride challenges. That's why they're jumping and diving all over the place. There's strategy behind it as well, of course, because free kicks and the amount of hours that these guys spend actually sending a ball over some dummy men and into the top corner of the goal is hour after hour after hour of practice. So yeah, if you can sneak a cheeky, lazy tackle or mistimed tackle, then yeah, by all means, especially if it knocks you off balance and you can't shoot as a result of it. That's what people forget about, footballers always dive. You know how hard it is to actually blast a football with your foot at a goal? And, football's not high scoring for a reason. It's a difficult sport. So if someone has, against the rules, knocked you off balance to try and already hit a moving football with people trying to take your legs out, yeah, man, it's hard to hit a football off balance. And that's why these guys dive, because they have lost the ability to take their shot. And they're also trying not to get wiped out so that they can continue playing and earning money for their long careers that they hope to progress through in their seasons and earn the accolades of, Golden Boot or all-time goal scoring records for teams and all sorts. I mean, these guys put it all on the line. If they have a career-ending injury, that's it for them. So yeah, of course they're going to try and ride these challenges. So anyway, that's my rant about diving and football from someone who's actually played the game and had a season-ending injury as a result. So My wildcard. Very good. So yeah, thanks again, Az. That's where I was at. Then followed up by 70 points on an average 51 points. I'm still ahead by 20 points. However, I have aggressively gone and spent 8 points with 3 transfers. I can't remember why. Off the top of my head, I have got Alonso's 19-point haul though. Happy days. Bruno G has somehow popped up with another 9-pointer. I actually remember that week because I put a TAB bet down. That's the gambling site here in New Zealand. And that motherfucker came through for me again. So I was actually dancing around my living room at about 4:30 in the morning, I think, when that one came through. I think it was the later game, wasn't it? Newcastle. Yeah, so that's my Monday AM when that's being played, which is your Sunday midday football, I think. Can't remember. I think it was to jump on the Chelsea train or something, get Mountain or something. But anyway, I'm waffling. I've gone way off track, so we'll just bring it back to the notes. Yeah, so I've gone 4-5-1. Which carries me through the rest of the season. I never have 2 strikers again. My benching dilemmas, not so bad for the rest of the season. I mean, all things considered, these are double game weeks and blanks, and there are chips being played left, right, and centre. So much so that I score 95 points in game week 36 and get a red arrow. I mean, oof. Yeah, no, I did take a 4-point hit, but 95 points. Did I play a chip? Didn't play a chip, so this is obviously one of the weeks I've not played a chip. 37. So I saved my free hit, my second free hit, until the final game week of the season as well, because seasons have passed. I always sat there and thinking, man, I wish I had a free hit right now, because all these teams are on the beach. These guys are fighting for relegation. I want some of those players, and these teams are fighting for top 4 spots and Europa spots. So I want these teams, and you just can't plan for that as easily when you're trying to jump on all the best players. And so I just tried it. I free hit in the final game week of the season, which I will cover here. My missed opportunities was selling Salah and Trent, as I have covered. Mahrez fail. Fuck. Yeah, so... man, we're almost there, almost through all my tales of woe. Where did Mahrez come in? So Bruno G, he is out of my team for Mahrez at this point. So I've downgraded Kane to Richarlison. If Everton's run out, Richarlison saves me at the end of the season. I've got Son in place, happy days. Mahrez comes in for... This is me trying to just get fed up. This is me fed up. This is fed up Steve in game week 36. Because at game week 36 I'm still ranked 200k, and I'm just like, what is even the point of this game? Fuck, nothing works. I'm not going anywhere. So I'm like, what will save me is to make a really stupid decision. That is what will save me. That was, it's game week 36. So Captain Mahrez, on the hope that in who's even playing? He's got a potential double against Newcastle and Wolves to do very good matches for Man City as they go and spank them 5-0 and 5-1 respectively. And he plays a total of 13 minutes. This is hands in head moment. Hey, this is just... What have I done? I mean... My vice captain is Salah. Ugh. Look at the rest... everyone else in my team. Every single other player has done well, apart from my captain and my vice captain. I've got it set up to just pick anyone but these 2 players. Fuck. So yeah, I mean, Son, this I had the team to do it. I've avoided the benching dilemmas. I've got all the players on the pitch, but I go and throw away the captaincy. And then so angry Steve, game week 37, does 4 transfers for another minus 12, knowing full well that I'm free hitting in game week 38. We're going Hail Marys here. And you know what? Hail Mary does not pay off. I get absolutely saved by Richarlison, who, woo-wee, has 2 epic games against Brentford and Crystal Palace, getting 12 and 7 points respectively on my captain. The rest of my team is dead. Zaha's got a goal from a penalty, I think. I've got 2 automatic subs with Amadi and Taylor coming in for 4 points and 3 points. That's actually not too bad, to be fair. 7 points for 2 subs off the bench. I'll take that. I'll take that. Richarlison absolutely saves me for a pretty good 30 points above average, but is still only a top 10% game week rank. I don't know if that game week rank takes into account the minus 12. I suspect it does, and that'll be why, because it's not 38 extra points that game week. I have spent the 12 points. I should really I don't want to. I should really have a look at who I bought in, whether or not those guys actually even paid off, but I'm not going to because I've had enough pain. I'm just going to go straight to game week 38, and this is already getting quite long. It's an hour in, and we're reaching the end. Shout out to Andy at Let's Talk FPL. On the final game week of the season, I am up and about at 2 AM, I think is the deadline New Zealand time. I've got my free hit active. I've built this epic team. 5 minutes before the deadline crops up, Andy gets a message on his deadline stream saying Alonso will not start. Andy doesn't say who it is, but he says, I value this guy. It's a what did he say? Something along the lines of, this account is well researched enough. He was very selective with his words. It was almost like he definitely didn't want to give away too much of who it was. But he switched Alonso out. He had Alonso and Kulu, so Kulusevski was on his bench. Worked out really well for him because Kulusevski on the last day of the season absolutely stonked it. And he would have got the auto sub anyway, in hindsight, because Kulu was first on Andy's bench at that point. But he put Alonso on the bench, put Kulu in the team. Sorry, that was a fly about to land right on the camera. I had already gone through the full thought process of who's best to put on my team for this free hit. And at that point, 5 minutes out, I should have known Andy has a lot of followers. He has built up some connections, and he is willing to put his name on the line that he is going to bench Alonso at that point. Now, yeah, this is still a game, but he's earning money out of this, and so he's actually putting money where his mouth is by virtue of the fact that he gets paid for his views on YouTube. And making a terrible decision will get you more views anyway, so it's win-win, really. If Alonso, did start and got like a 21 pointer and Kulu got like 2 points, he would have got heaps of views for that. So it wins either way. But if you really want to win this game, you need to make the right decisions. So it's not all about follows and views. Alonso, to me, I should have gone, who is the same price as Alonso? Who was I toying up with in this free hit that whole time? Who is the next best replacement? Put Alonso in, because who am I getting off the bench? Gelhardt. Now, I could have found a much better player than Gelhardt for an Alonso on the bench. I mean, I still score 83 points in the final game week of the season. Average is 50. Game week rank 332,000. because of no hits, because everyone takes hits in that last game week of the season as well. That free hit, that second free hit, that really did pay off. Like, that's what are we like? That's a top 3% Gameweek rank again. That boosted me in time, back inside the top 200k. But in Alonso, like if I just had got Chalobah, I think Chalobah played. I don't know how to get to Chalobah now. Transfers. Yep. Okay. Fuck. I have password manager. For anyone out there doing content creation who use on the fly, like I like showing by doing, because of my long-term software career. That's basically all I did, to top executives around the world, all the time. So that's why I'm quite comfortable doing this. But if you're going to do it on any video, make sure you've got a password manager, because you'll be hacked. You'll get hacked. And unfortunately, lots of players have been hacked in the past and having had to use things like either a free hit or a wildcard at that point, losing all sorts of team value. I mean, it really does detriment a season at that point. And for content creators, motivation at that point, man, I feel for you. Like, if you have been hacked and you're a content creator and you had to soldier on past that point, props to you guys, because that would have been hard work. It's pretty deflating, especially if you put a lot of time into it. So, password manager. Yep. Never remember a password again apart from one big badass password that is like 60 characters long and no one can remember apart from you. Free hit, final game week of the season. Definitely worth it if you can somehow swing that in. I could have potentially got like another 6 or 7 points, which would have put me probably, I don't know, 160k, maybe. I mean, I could work it out, but you're getting Kane, Son, Mane, Maddison, Mount, Luis Diaz, James, Matip, which is, great. So I did actually sell Salah and Trent on my free hit in the end of the season, banking in on the value. But you can build a pretty epic final free hit team for the final game we get the season if you have it. Edison was my cover in for Cancelo in case they got a clean sheet. I thought he was the most likely clean sheet out of the bankable clean sheet options out there. I was just looking for anyone that was, playing for the title. But I suspected that they would probably concede, which is why I sold Cancelo, because without the clean sheet, Cancelo's points just dwindle, especially in a game like that. Like, bonus points disappear for defenders that don't get clean sheets pretty quickly. I mean, the assist does help, but this is a final free hit team. Anyway, I'm waffling. It's already over an hour, and I will just finish with a final shout out to Nelios at the FPL thread that I mentioned yesterday. He and I are catching up. We're online, but not recorded, tomorrow to discuss the spreadsheet you see on screen. He's quite keen to catch up, and I'm quite keen to collaborate with as many of you out there as possible. So if you do like the content and my style is definitely different to most of the stuff that you've watched out there. I'm probably making all sorts of errors and mistakes, so feel free to point those out in the comments below. Anything that you do like, feel free to comment below as well, because, put a smile on my face. It's great. But yeah, what I actually want to do is I want to try and win this game. Yep. I want to win it. Like, I keep hearing podcasters say, do I want to protect my top 1k rank? Do I want to protect my top 5k rank? Do I want to protect my top 10k rank? Do I want to protect? No, I don't want to protect shit. I want to protect a 1k rank. I've never had a 1k rank, so I don't know what that would even feel like. It's probably probably full of all sorts of fun, wonder, or it's probably kind of akin to the first time you have sex, really. You're like, Can't believe it. What? How did that just happen? But yeah, I want to go for top number one. So I'm going to try and break it down the same way that I solve global software architects solutions, really. I'm just going to apply my unique set of skills to the game of FPL and content creation as a result, I suppose, in the hopes to try and win this fucking game. I reckon there'll be 10 million players next year. And hitting 10 million, I think you'll find FPL will probably promote the shit out of it as well, and it might even be more than 10 million. Because if I was them, I would be doing like a lead up, hey, we're reaching 10 million, come along for the 10 million party, and they will probably skyrocket really quickly, especially if they put in something like, I don't know, multilingual support on their site. Dude, just add Spanish. So add Spanish, and, you know, some probably Mandarin. If you add those two languages to the fantasy site, it would go from 10 million players to probably 100 million players, I guess, within a season. That quick in today's world and the way that the world works. And honestly, man, like, I don't know why they haven't done it yet. Anyway, I'm not going to rip into them too much because I love the game. As you can tell, I'm relatively opinionated. I speak my mind. You kind of have to when you do the job that I did. Corporate executives, like the global, your CIOs, that if you're in a meeting with them or you're hosting a meeting with them, they want answers. They don't want opinions. They don't want to, sit on the fence. They want to go, this is your best option for these reasons, and this is your second best option for these reasons, and here's your risk versus reward approach. And then they make the decision. FPL, I am approaching the same way, but I am the executive of my own team. So are you. You are the manager. That's why this game is so great. It's, your own strategy applied to real life football. And however you approach that is your unique management style, I suppose. So if you're interested, this is my master spreadsheet that I'm going to be working on pre-season. It'll probably die as soon as the actual game launches with all the pricing. Maybe. Like, it's got strategy points in here, but I'll probably transpose that to a different sheet because this spreadsheet is just, it's a lot of data. A lot of data. So I will be building this sheet with, to start with, Nelios is going to be the first one tomorrow morning. So expect to see another video in the next couple of days about the changes that we end up making. It will be more of a feedback from me on what we do because I have agreed to not record. So for all of you out there that are keen but are a bit camera shy, I am still all for like non-recorded catch-ups and like collabs and stuff because I want to win this thing and I'm going to need a little bit of help along the way. And I also want to grow my content network, really. Like the FPL community out there, you guys, again, shout outs to you. You guys rock. So yeah, if you're a bit camera shy, and even if you just want like a Spaces catch up on Twitter or even like a Discord catch up or whatever, I am definitely up for that. And if we can get like a few people, I missed the FPL scientist one. He took notes and sent them through to me, so thanks a lot to you too. Big shout outs to you. That was about content creation and growing accounts and stuff. So for content creators out there that have landed on this video, I will ask him if I can reshare his notes because I don't know if I could just go willy-nilly sharing the notes that he has got. I don't, there's certain boundaries out there that I'm not yet, sure where we want to get to, but some people don't even want to be mentioned by name, so that's why I'm a little bit cautious. If you're thinking like I'm being overly skeptical or something. So whatever level of comfort you are up for, even if it's just to drop me a follow and just see my crazy ass tweets flapping about out there in the Twitter Space. Yeah, feel free to follow, but please do like this video if you've definitely made it. If you've made it this far and you haven't liked this video, like this video. Go on, click that button, man. I've earned it. I've not even taken a sip of my coffee that I remember doing. But yeah, so the spreadsheet in the details below. Have a look. It's got all the data straight out of the Fantasy Premier League site. Pulled apart. Well, I pulled apart their JSON, which is JavaScript object notation in programming speak. I've converted that into a spreadsheet, just a raw data spreadsheet, which was, oh man, how many? 54,000 lines or something, I think, of data from the official site, and it's got all sorts of cool metrics in there. The number of columns goes all the way out to FD. Now that's a lot, because you go right through the alphabet, and then you start at AA, and right through the alphabet, and then start again at BA. It's gone right out to FD there, so there's a lot of data in there, which I haven't added to all these all these different tabs in here, but feel free to have a little perusal. There's some pretty cool things that I have found so far, especially in terms of cost versus value. So I am taking a stock market company investment approach to analysis for FPL. It will be highly prevalent because I was and am still trading in crypto space. So, you know, that just kind of comes a bit more second-hand nature to me as well. So, pretty unique combination of skills, I suppose, really. Not yet casual. Maybe a bit more in-depth, maybe too in-depth. I probably won't get many views. That's probably what's going to be the result of this. Anyway, that's enough. I've waffled enough. Like and subscribe. Please subscribe. Do click that big red button. Does help me out. Those algorithms that all the other content creators are talking about, true, very true. Algorithms. I understand algorithms, and I will happily explain them to you on other videos if you want. Query those below. Leave me a comment, and I'll see you around next time.